Hello everybody, welcome to Women's Day, the 9th of August in Women's Month, and I hope that you get to have a public holiday today and that you get to rest a while and just think about the women who've contributed to the formation of who you are, and as we kind of think about the formation of our country. I want to just start off by reading a little extract from the South African Government News Agency that gives a little bit background to what Women's Day and Women's Month is all about. And I've given the link to that article, and there are many more links that you can go on and read and get yourself maybe a little bit more informed around Women's Day and Women's Month. So let me just read a little bit from just one paragraph from the article. South Africa commemorates Women's Month in August as a tribute to the thousands of women who marched to the Union buildings on the 9th of August in 1956. They were marching in protest against the extension of past laws to women. Now, as I thought about this, I really wanted to convey to you, the viewer, that I really am not the most informed person about the struggle that both men and women had against apartheid. I'm also not the most informed person about the struggle that women have in general. The incredible amount of rape that exists in our country, the abuse of women, the struggle that women often have in the workplace and to get ahead, the ideas of equal pay for equal work. The influence that I have and the learnings that I've obtained from this is mainly to the influence of my three daughters. Each one of them in their own ways have contributed to being a mirror to me to kind of realize the plight of women. Thank you to my girls for the robust discussions we've had around the dinner table, and many times me having to be put in my place by the younger, smarter new generation. So having said that, I kind of want to just highlight another aspect to my life and to the impact that within that context that I found that a particular woman who had a huge influence. It goes without saying that the first 37 years of my life were spent under the apartheid regime, and in no way was that in some kind of normal and natural environment. I am certainly the product of white privilege, and to be a denial to 90% of the population of our country, and it will be a betrayal to me if I wasn't going to be willing to acknowledge the disproportionate amount of privilege that has come my way. Not only has it come my way because simply I was born a male, a white person in 1957, but I've had privileges in many other ways in terms of the family that I grew up in. I never chose my family. I was just very fortunate to have grown up in a loving home. The fact that I could hear the gospel of Jesus Christ at a young age. So bearing all that in mind, my base that I'm coming from is one of a deep sense of the privilege and therefore the responsibility that is upon people such as myself. Let me just share a brief story with you about a woman who had a massive impact on my life, who today I want to pay tribute to because I think it's appropriate. Her name is Emily, or her name was Emily. Emily was the domestic lady that worked for our family in, I would imagine, the first 7 or 8 years of my life. I don't know much about Emily's background or her family. My parents have since passed away, so I don't really have access to Emily's story. But I know Emily is the lady who worked in our home and for a large part had a great love and affection for me. Emily was an educated woman. She was able to read me bedtime stories at night. She was able to look after me at night and to put me to bed on the occasions that my mom and dad would be going out. I remember Emily as the person, as the woman who would invite me to her kaya, her, as the colonialists would say, the servants' quarters at the back of our house. And there she would often invite me with some of her friends and some of the domestic workers who lived in our street, and we would gather around for a meal. I would remember as a little boy looking to Emily's room, which was very plain and wasn't nearly as furnished as my house and the part of the house where I lived in. But nevertheless, Emily had a bed up on bricks, and she had it decorated in a way that gave it a homely feel. And as a young little boy, again, I'd imagine in the age of 7 or 8, before that era in fact, I would sit with her and her friends and they would eat meal and she would share some of her putu with me, and And I would participate with these incredible women, and they would make me feel welcomed. And I would just not understand, because my Xhosa is non-existent, but I would sit around and they would make me feel part of them. And for that I'm so grateful and so privileged. Emily, eventually when we left Welkom and we moved to Escort, Emily came and she stayed with us for about a year and helped my mom kind of relocate. But Emily wanted to go back to her home in the Transkei, and so I remember the day that Emily left. I wept bitterly because this woman had loved me and had been so gracious and kind to me and to our family. And so today, on Women's Day, I think about the many, many women who work in our homes. It really is a privilege that very few people in the Western world could have and could afford it. In fact, it's almost some kind of distortion, unique South African experience. When we realize that today over 1 million women work in homes, work as domestic workers, which is 8% of the workforce in South Africa, which is a massive impact on the economy of our country. And those of us who have the privilege of being able to employ domestic help, that we won't just be kind and gracious to the people who work with us. Not only would we be the ones who pay more than what the government requires of us, but we'll be deeply aware that we are incredibly privileged as people who can employ others to come and work in our homes. So I salute Emily and the many other domestic workers, and I dedicate this video to Emily's memory and those who work within our homes. God bless you.